Hey, good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Um, last last night's gathering. Again, there are always successes. And very interesting, and let's say um, intriguing, and a little bit different. And of course, with these gatherings that we have, there is little to no agenda because. It is always best to let divinity guide what happens with these. It's so important, and you achieve so much by doing that. So, with any of these gatherings, you put the call out, and whoever comes, those are the ones that are supposed to be there at that time. So, having said that, every gathering is perfect. Um, Last evening, so we were, recording in the beginning, but when we shut off after doing that 40 minutes recording, it became apparent that uh, the way that gathering was, that we would change direction on it, and because of the ones who participated. Uh, they were, let's say, just new ones becoming aware. Then we changed direction with what we were doing, and more so uh, looked at each one more so on an individual basis with that. So also that's kind of why we put the video off, because there was important other things that we needed to more so deal with, and do that. But let me say, if we were had someone doing all the recording and things, that we probably could have left it play, but to accommodate what was happening, it was best just to put it off. So, um, so last evening it was more so. Let's see, what do we have? We had one, two, three. I believe we had four uh, real angels there, and then we had four new ones just beginning to come into their gifts, and it was very interesting. So we had eight, as I mentioned last night, that attended, including I. It was an equal representation of male and female. There was four of each, and of course the infinity symbol and eight kept showing up, which is significant. And so there was, let's say, synchronicities around that, but we always have these confirmations with it. So it was great in that respect, always is. During the live last evening, there were, some of you were asking questions, and last evening really didn't get into that, and your questions, I mean, on the live feeds. And of course, all of them are so important, but um, when I'm at, when I'm at, hey, hi, Jen Peters. Yeah, you're beautiful too. Last, last evening, yeah, I don't take the time really to ask those questions, and we more so focus on the gathering and what's at hand there with it. But thank you for those questions, and just letting the odd time we'll look at one. Hey, Sharon, and you're beautiful as well. Everyone is beautiful. Um, so get back here on course. So yeah, the questions, yeah, we do look at them, and I know everyone has, so many questions, but if we were to answer all of them as well, then we don't get much done at the gathering. So the gathering is important, and any time, we record parts of it or even all of it, that You know, that's just for the benefit, more or less, for you to watch. If there is any time that we'll take questions during these gatherings, and perhaps we'll put it out there. Uh, Tentatively, and what's looking like the divine plan is, I believe, um, yeah, I believe I'll be coming down the west side of the U.S. shortly. So looks like in the very near future, within a couple weeks or so. So I may be coming down there into Washington and Oregon and down towards California. So we'll watch how this plays out, and I can attend some gatherings if you have them down that way. But I do not need to be at them. And also, I strongly encourage for each one of you to keep facilitating the gatherings, and for one of you to hit them up, and you know, just like Conrad hit it up the one last night. And so many of you are quite qualified divinely to do that. And really, though, you don't even need to be qualified, you know, as a leader in the respect you might think. Just have to get together and everything divinely flows. So you don't have to put much into it. And, you know, the less you try to restrict a gathering or control it, the better it is, and the more beneficial it is. So you just put the word out, and you know, say, hey, I'm having a gathering, and you know, if 2 shows up or if 200 shows up, it's perfect. It's the way it is divinely supposed to be. So last evening, so yeah, we had the you know, we had the gathering in a facility. There was a locked door. I don't know if anyone else had showed up and couldn't get in, but we had waited outside, you know, for probably 15 or 20 minutes before we started the show, I believe. So, so if anyone was coming, they could have come in. And but an angel, Cassie, she did come later, and she was able to get in. So it was assured she came there, you know. Okay, so interesting. So last night, when we shut the video off, the crystals was very important because what we found is that everyone there had a crystal, and you know, at stages in this ascent, and because of what some are, the crystals are very important, because some you know, have, when it was time for to have their crystals, they were guided to them, led to them, or even some cases, their crystal would just appear out of nowhere, you know, because it's very important when they have these crystals. It does so much. So you know, within the crystals, they contain a frequency that is very alive, if you wish, and it's pertinent to their stability and to their frequency of their energetic fields. So, you know, many use crystals. I did before as well, in balancing your energy and in the beginning, and getting a good grasp on what you're doing. So where we had, let's say, at least 4 new ones to what was happening, which I was very grateful to see, because also it's indicative of the awakening, and you know, the another wave coming into their divinity. So because of that, you know, we had a discussion on crystals and went around the room, and you know, to learn more about each one, how they come about their crystals, and these sort of things. So again, you know, we kind of just kept these things out of it because it was an individual, more so, talk as well. We could have kept rolling, but we didn't wish to, you know, shut things on and off and all of that. Just made it simpler, just to put it off. So the crystals was very important. We had a great discussion with that, and and it does have importance in all of this for many, really. So good. So we did that. The infinity was important. The balance, the location where we had the gathering at, again, that was important. And it's also in doing energy, the infinity connection there was so important in that balance of 4 males and 4 females. And also it was well, to just come out and say it, there was also an energy that we were projecting outward to the city as well, and this is why it was divinely orchestrated, just to have the 8 because of infinity and what we were doing towards infinity and this ascension, and also to have that balance, even though in the physical of 4 male and 4 female. So it became very obvious what was happening there, and also the location where we were at. We were also energizing that for a future portal of sorts. So a lot of interesting things. And also it was let's say, a power nodule previous, before we even had this. And it's my understanding that within the building we were having it, that weird things happened there before, because it was an actual energized doorway or portal to other dimensions. And so also we were doing obliviously a sort of a cleansing of that area as well. And that leads us to the next thing that occurred. And it's always fun with these gatherings. And when you have so much energy there, you just don't know beforehand what's going to happen, but you always know it's good. So with this, it was very interesting that we were listening to one of the participants speak, and she was speaking about in her younger life, perhaps, what was a negative or dark experience, what happened with some weird things around it. And so she's speaking about that, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I was sitting where I could look out a doorway into the hall, and all of a sudden, I see this thing move out in the hallway. So I look, and I see it's a pretty big black assemblage, a cloud, like not right black, not, you could see through it, but immediately I just go with my hand and I dissipate it, because I deal with these in the past, quite a bit when I take them from the plane, because they are dark assemblages of negative energy. And what had happened previous, when we had to discuss this later, is that Conrad, he was sitting beside me, and he said before it occurred, he said for some reason had to do a sort of a mantra or whatever, and he did not know what it was for. But what we actually did is we were working as a team there to push the darkness that was still in the girl, what she had there, and not really a darkness like a negative entity. And so that was pushed out. And also talking later, another angel, she was there. She had played a part in it as well. So what was happening is we were actually doing a sort of exorcism, and without any of us, knowing what was happening, we were all preparing beforehand to, do this exorcism. So it was quite cool. And so, very quickly though, none of this darkness can exist in the light, but for valuable training purposes and, you know, the appearance there at that time while we had new ones there, it was the perfect time for that to be there. And, you know, because new ones then began to learn more about it. And so that was, I was so happy with that. So we had a great, you know, discussion as well, looking at, you know, what kind of happened there. So it was great. So some of these, well, I wouldn't say some, all of these new ones also have gifts. And part of what I am, and being psychic and what have you, you know, and more, well, when I look at one, their energy is quickly read and gifts they have. And I also know if they have any fears, what it is, or any anchors, because I'm also an empath like you, and we know all this. So it's quickly identified to me what one's strongest gifts is, so I can focus on that when I mentor them or assist them. And also I'm showing, you know, their biggest fears that needs to be addressed first. So when you're assisting anyone, it's always most beneficial and prudent to get rid of any of the fear and negativity one has first, because you've got to push that out of the way so that you can bring the light in to that gap that, you know, that you push it out of, so that you fill it with the light and more knowledge and more you know, more love and all of this. Like, it's a process. And so when you get rid of the negativity first, when you're working with one, and you put that extra light in, then that extra light also begins to lift their veil, that they're of higher consciousness. Then you can work at a much more efficient, higher level with them more rapidly to advance them. Because as we know, the darkness in you know, the darkness and negativity in each one is actually what keeps the veil intact. So every bit of negativity you take from someone, you actually raise that veil, that they can see further and further away and see more things. So very you know, that is the process. So so for you know, the dark entity as well, that what I was given was associated with the lady, not a dark entity. It was just a really, it was just the negativity attached to the past experience she had. Really, it did not have any shape or form. And if you look at an intelligence of a dark entity from 1 to 20, its intelligence was around a 1. So it was just a negative assemblage that was attached to a memory and an experience she had, to keep it simple without going too much into that. So that was excellent. So without taking this on too much further, it was very interesting. I've spoken before, when many of us get together like this, you drop the temperature, the air temperature, because divinity is pure. And when you have a lot of energy interacting with each other, like at the, will drop the outside temperature. Now, without getting into all of the reasons why it does occur, and it was comical last night after I left the gathering. I was showing to look up at the temperature, like on one of the garages or whatever we just left. It said 0 degrees Celsius. So we were closest to the portal and where we had the gathering. And but like, it was here in the city of Victoria. And so we had about a 15-minute drive through the city. But so it was 0 degrees up on the sign close to the portal to where we had the gathering. And as it drove, maybe a few kilometers away, the temperature there was +5. And so quite a difference in the temperature, but you also could feel it. So there was nothing wrong with their thermometers, if you will. That was the actual temperature. And when you get together with this, you do drop the temperatures. So very important. And we were standing outside last evening, and when we were all done for a bit, and for I part of my gifts, I see portals, and most of the time when I'm supposed to, and what I was receiving, yes, because of our gathering, we had a portal open during the gathering, but we also, let's say, created and stabilized more of a small operational portal there that is now intact, that will emanate out, of course, good things into the surroundings without complicating it too much. So, all in all, it was a very beautiful gathering again, and we started at about 6, and around 6 o'clock, and I didn't really look at the time, but it must have been close to midnight time we broke up for the evening. So again, very great. Also, as a result, I will be meeting with a couple of the participants, or perhaps most of them, in the next day or two here on a 101, and because they are just entering their stages of knowing more and awakening more. So what I will do is meet one-on-one, and we'll get together with that, and I'll, any way I can assist them to move forward further very rapidly, that's what we'll be doing, and looking at their gifts, and I'll be giving them tips and to assist them forward if they wish. And of course, it's always by anyone's choice, and whatever they're open for, and whatever they wish to do going forward, that is their choice, their soul choice, and their divine choice, whatever may occur. And and so also one little thing with the gathering last night, I believe there were several that were feeling like upliftments as well. I know I did, and I believe and one other lady, but there may have been more that kind of felt this raising up, because it is also so important when you raise the, let's say, when you raise the vibration of the area, well, it affects individuals, how they're connected in with that energy, and they will get the raising sensations, and become light, and things of that sort as well. And these are very real indications and confirmations that energy is at play, and it affects everything with everyone at the gatherings, and also the area where the gathering is taking place. Now, having said that, I was very appreciative as well to say we had a catalyst. One of the females that showed up is a catalyst, and an activator, especially for the males, which was, you could consider her twin flame. Female, and as we know, for the ones of you that knows about what's designated as a twin flame, they are very important, and they are very powerful, but we are also catalysts, and I am a catalyst as well, because I carry the twin flame attributes and all of that, and it's and I do activate, but I activate mostly the females with this, but she had showed up, um, and my feelings is that she kind of activated the males that were there. So it was an excellent balance with that as well, to see what you could say a twin flame half for representing the feminine. And I am a twin flame half, if you wish to look at it that way. It is a little bit different as we go up, but for simplicity's sake, in that for that intents and purposes, I was the masculine uh, representation of a twin flame union. So her and I are not twin flames, but we both represented those aspects to apply the energetic triggers and activations that might have been needed in the other attendees there. And these things, we don't just go out and and purposely and intentionally do it. It's divinely orchestrated, that it happens on a subconscious level, that these things occur, and then after the fact, like I'm speaking to you now, then we know what occurred. So that was very interesting as well. And I wish to point that out. Also, one of the other participants, when we were going around the room with the crystals, was very interesting. He had two, and he had let's say a clear quartz crystal, and the dark crystal. I know the name of it anyways. I just can't think of it right now. So he had a light and a dark crystal there, which clearly represented his balance of the yin and yang or whatever, that he was in balance with that, but also a sign that he's ready to go forward from that. So that meant he had done his balance, if you will, in the 4D, now ready to go forward and get, rid of any of that other negative and dark balance that he no longer needs, that he no longer serves. So it was totally indicative of that. So, having said that, I have a few meetings lined up for today, and I am going to get underway with that. So keep the gatherings going, and it's awesome. And yeah, we'll have live feeds, whenever we can, but it needs to be understood also by you, the viewers, that you always can watch these feeds later. So when we're having the gatherings, we don't know if we shut the feed off, if we're going to be shutting it back on, or whatever. And I believe last night I did say we would be putting it back on, but before that occurred, we decided not to, and kind of got focused in the gathering, and I didn't put on a note to let you know for sure, until later on. So I do not wish to have any of you hanging when you're watching these live feeds, wondering if we're going to come back on or not, because openly and truthfully, we do not know that. These gatherings are divinely orchestrated. So, if you're watching live, at least for a while, and we go off, don't stay up late. You can get it again the next morning, what you didn't get or whatever. So yeah, I see the 111. Umar was watching. Yeah, 111's been a number popping up again, not on here, not just on here, but other areas again, like around the area. So the number sequences, yeah, they're popping up again. And also last evening before the gathering, I believe several mentioned about they were seeing the repetitive numbers and things, because it's it's confirmations, but it's also of alignment of what's occurring, that, you know, it's significant for them to, you know, be more alert in just watching the signs, but alert to know that something higher is happening as well. So that pretty well covers it. So I love you all, and just glancing a little bit at some of your comments here. Oh, Linda Bishop, yeah. Over the homes of light workers, we used to call it a temple, which was built from their constant work in the light. Today it is called a portal. Both names are lovely. Yes, Linda, a beautiful description as a temple, but what I tend to do is, with that, I tend to use portal because there's so much coming into, and that's just the way I perspect it as well. But a temple as well is, you know, is a good expression for those that use that as well. So, Linda, you said I've been having difficulty raising myself up. Remember to switch the mentality now, how important it is. So try not to say that you can't or are having difficulties. It's best, even though you may feel you're having difficulties, if you switch the mentality and keep saying, no, I'm not having difficulties. I'm not having difficulties. Then, oh, sorry, waving my hand. And then you'll assist yourself and you will not have the difficulties. So the mentality is so important now with your creating things. So, and so, you know, I suggest for all, keep your mentality positive and keep it open with less restrictive thoughts. Because if you have restrictive thoughts, you may be creating that restriction yourself. It's best to keep open and don't have them, and keep switching your mentality to always positive. Jackie, she had mentioned something about, and it just disappeared, about catalyst not just being twin flames, and that's absolutely correct. You know, all catalysts and triggers, you know, to at least some respect. But for intents and purposes, with mentioning the twin flame is the specific, let's say the specific task of that is to triggering the Kundalini. And that is kind of more specific, as most of you know, that really there are not a lot in the past that could trigger, that were the catalyst for triggering the Kundalini. There are more and more every day now that are able to do this. As one has their Kundalini triggered and come online, then they become an activator and a catalyst as well. But others, yeah, we're always sharing gifts and activating and triggering others. That's why it's so important to be in the physical with the gatherings as well. Your energetic fields, you know, intermingling, and it's so much more efficient than that way. We can connect on the phone, but let's say it's not as efficient and all-encompassing when you actually get in the physical. And I know many of you can attest to what I'm saying with that. So that is why, you know, these gatherings, again, are so important at this time. So I love you all, and have a beautiful day, and let's see when the next gathering perhaps begins that I attend to. It may be possible I may have another little one back in Vancouver before entering into the U.S., see what takes place. Everything's tentative. I'm on a day-to-day, more or less, flexibility because I go where Father and Divine Council instructs me to go. So I keep flexible to that divine plan without having little plans for any future new plans. I'm divinely told to do it, and it's usually just very short into the future. So and that's important, as most of you can as more of you have come to see as well. It's of little value to you to have any long-term plans because there's so much happening, like right now, especially like, in a job for some of you and expecting a career. Well, that may not occur because we're in times of rapid change that perhaps the job that you're expecting to have a career in it won't be part of this new world. So it's so important just to keep yourself flexible, keep yourself on the day-to-day thing and in the now. Sure, you get up, go to work today, but you know that you're not restricted to having to go to work for the following day after that. So it's very important to keep yourself as flexible and not to be projecting, let's say, a job into your future for another year or 5. What you'll tend to do where you're creating and manifesting, if you say I'll be working at this job for a year, well, you're going to maybe create a lot of it going that way, when if you did not restrict it, there are so many other paths that open up in this now every day that could be more favorable. But it's your choice what you wish to do, of course. But what I'm saying is that you can keep yourself open to so many other options when you don't restrict and plan ahead so far. Keep flexible is what I say. So again, love you. Peace. Have a great, beautiful day and night, and we'll catch you later. Woo!